David here with Figboot on Pens, back again with another fountain pen review. I have said this several times, but one of my favorite things about this hobby is making a new discovery. It's really fun to come across something new and instantly know that it's something you need to add to your collection. And that's what happened to me when I first saw a pen from Rockster Pens. I believe I first saw them on Instagram, or maybe it was even the Pen Addict Slack channel. But as soon as I saw a pen similar to what I'm showing you today, I reached out to the company and placed an order. So this is something that I purchased. It was not provided for the review. Instagram and the Pen Addict Slack are great places to learn about new releases and new products. On Instagram, if you should subscribe to the major retailers and distributors, it's a good way of keeping on top of anything new entering the market, at least from well-known brands. Now, I wouldn't put Rockster in that well-known category quite yet, but the company has been gaining a lot of traction lately. The company launched back in 2019 and was founded by a gentleman by the name of Ash Lawrence, who lives in Cardiff, Wales. The company is named after his dog, Rocky, who is a miniature schnauzer. I believe he is the one on the right. Ash was living the corporate life and dabbled a bit with woodworking. It was something he watched his father do from an early age. His father was a talented woodworker and would create everything from dressers to cupboards to even like rocking chairs. After his father passed around 10 years ago, Ash had a real strong desire to get more heavily into the hobby. He found it made him feel a little closer to his father and helped him through some challenging times. He started by making guitars, both electric as well as acoustic. Then on his lathe, he started turning things like bowls and vases and door handles and any other round things he could think of. Then one day he decided to make a pen. More of a one-off thing, just to check it off the list. But Ash enjoyed making that first pen, and he was surprised at how many of his friends and family really wanted pens made from wood. He began making kit pens, but quickly progressed to making full bespoke pens. Okay, that's a lot of backstory, but for companies you might not be familiar with, I like to provide a bit more just so you can get to a better feeling of what the company is about and how it came to be. So let's take a look at what I feel is a very cool pen. The pen arrives in this cool tube. Along with it, you receive a certificate of authenticity. There was a test of your nib, and then even a little Rockster sticker. And then inside the tube, we have a pen. Now, it arrived kind of with some paper wrapped around it, but I took it out of here just so it wouldn't make as much noise. And here is the pen. This is the Rockster Daydreamer. Rockster offers a dozen different models, each customizable to suit your tastes. Ash works with a variety of materials as well. For example, here are some other versions of the Daydreamer. This one is ebony with an orange acrylic with a very cool ink splat roll stop. Here's one with a blue maple burl with more of a tortoiseshell resin section. And here's one appropriately called the Watermelon. I think he did a good job of capturing the darker green outer rind and the red insides, as well as the light green inner rind. I think that that's a really cool looking colorway. But to be honest, I like the one I purchased more than any of those three. This pen is made from an amethyst dye stabilized maple burl. The process involves using pressure or a vacuum to what is described as impregnating the wood's cellular structure with resin to improve its stability. The colors and patterning on this pen are really unique and unlike anything I've seen before on a pen. You can really see the grain of the wood going in multiple directions, and the colors are fantastic. Violets and purples and blues and whites and browns that blend in really well together. It's just amazing. Some of the patterning almost reminds me of Van Gogh's Starry Night. I absolutely love it. Let's take a look at the top of the cap. Inset into the top is the Rockster ink splat logo. I think it looks neat. I will say though that this insert is just very, very slightly off-center. Now, it's one of those things where it's almost imperceptible, like maybe half a millimeter, maybe just a quarter, just barely enough for me to notice, but it's not so far off-center that it bugs me, if that makes sense. It reminds me that this pen was handcrafted by an artisan, which makes it all that more special. The cap is clipless, and I showed you in one of the pictures previously, but Ash offers a roll stop in the shape of his Inksplat logo. It's kind of funny because when I originally ordered this, I had requested that roll stop because I thought it looked kind of cool. But after the pen was made, Ash actually convinced me that this particular material probably looked better without it. After second thought, I agreed with him. So while he could have gotten a few extra dollars out of me by including it, it's nice to see when someone really cares about their product enough to advise a customer, not to spend money in order to not make a decision they might regret later. While I don't know if I would have regretted it, I agree that this particular pen does look a little bit better without it. The cap angles up slightly and then straightens out for the last inch or so. There is no traditional cap band on the end. On the end of the cap, there is a small band of resin, which is part of the inner cap sleeve. For this particular pen, I chose a matching purple resin, so it's a really subtle trim feature. Then there is a fairly small step down to the barrel, which begins with just a peak of the section material. The barrel slowly tapers down, then toward the back of the barrel, the rate of decline increases a little bit until it reaches the end, which comes to a smooth, rounded point. The cap twists off in 1.5 rotations, and underneath we have a standard number 6 stainless steel Jowo nib. While nib stamping is basically cost prohibitive for small makers, laser engraving has come a long way in the last few years. In the past, I've seen a lot of laser engraving which I felt really cheapened the look of a nib, but I'm seeing some new laser engraving now that looks really, really nice, and it really enhances the look and the branding of pens for smaller manufacturers. So it'd be nice to see something like that as opposed to more of a generic looking nib. But this specific nib writes very well. So in the end, that's really all that matters. And here's a look at the plastic feed. The section is made from a purple Italian acrylic resin. The original version of this pen that I had more of a tortoise shell section. I'm not the biggest fan of the tortoise shell look, so I requested something a little bit different. And I think what Ash came up with for a complementary color for the section is perfect. It really helps the visual aesthetic of this pen kind of flow very nicely. The section is slightly concave, and then it transitions into the cap threads, which I don't find to be sharp or uncomfortable if your grip should rest on them at all. Then there is a medium-sized step up to the barrel. I really like the length of this section. It's very comfortable in my hand. And the pen is plenty long enough to use unposted, which is a good thing because the Daydreamer is not designed to post. It kind of sits on here, but not really, but that's fine. This is a cartridge converter pen. It accepts standard international cartridges and a converter is provided. While there is no metal in this barrel or section, there is some exposed wood here in the barrel. While I mentioned earlier how this wood has been infused with resin, I'm not quite sure how it would react to eyedropping. So that's something I would not suggest or recommend, at least with this material. In regard to price, there are several customizable options which can affect the total, but the base price for this Daydreamer is right around $250. And I find that to be a reasonable price for what you receive with this bespoke pen. I like it when a pen is different than anything else in my collection. I've mentioned it before, but when I would go to pen shows, I typically carry a pen around with me that I feel is really cool to share with folks. This is definitely one of those pens I would carry around with me at a show. It has a very high wow factor, and it would be fun to see people's reactions when they see it in person. These pens are only available to purchase directly from Rockster Pens. I would strongly suggest following them on Instagram, where new one-off models are often posted for sale. You can also check out the company's site and see all the different models and customization options available. I'll put a link to both in the notes below. It's something I would highly recommend. I spent my own money for this pen, and I haven't regretted it a bit. At the end of the last couple of years, I've posted a video highlighting some of my favorite things from the past year, and I can guarantee you that this pen will show up again in that video. It's just fun to look at and fun to use. Okay, now it is time for some measurements, size comparisons, and a writing sample. Here we go with some size comparisons for the Rockster Daydreamer. I wanted to give you another close-up look at the grain on this pen. This is just spectacular. I even kind of like at the end here. It almost looks like a knot in the wood. I just think that this is one of the coolest looking pens I've purchased in quite some time. In regard to some size comparisons, here it is with another pen that I feel is really cool, which is the Wancher Dream Pen. This is the Kiei Arushi, which actually puts a leaf into the design as well. And here's another really neat pen, another wood pen. This is from Ryan Krusak, and this is the Cocobolo. And then here it is with a Leonardo Pura. And in regard to some other pens, here it is with a TWSBI VAC 700 Iris that is as vibrant on its own. Here it is with a Visconti Homo Sapiens. This is the sterling silver model. And finally, here it is with a Faber-Castell Lume. In regard to some uncapped comparisons, here it is with the VAC 700 Iris. And here it is with the Homo Sapiens. And here it is with the Leonardo Pura. So here we go with the Rockster Daydreamer. This is a medium stainless steel nib, and the ink, appropriately enough for this purple pen, is Lamy Dark Lilac. This is what the ink looks like. This was a limited edition color a number of years ago that sold out and then became very popular on the secondary market. It's very expensive if you try to purchase some now. It is a nice purple. Another one of my favorite purples is Cross Violet, which is a little bit more saturated. And then here is the Mont Blanc Beetles Psychedelic Purple, which is a little brighter. This is what the Lamy bottles look like. And then it's nice because there's some little paper dispenser here to help clean off the nibs when you are inking your pen. Okay, here we go with the rest of the writing sample. This is a very nice nib. That it is not, I wouldn't necessarily say it's overly smooth. It has some very nice feedback to it. It's decently smooth. You're not going to get a lot of line variation out of here, but it just has a nice feedback to it that I enjoy. In regard to ink flow, it is decent. In regard to some reverse writing, it is a little sharp, but it gets the job done. In regard to some fast writing, there's no issues at all. So here we have the Rockster Daydreamer. I just wanted to give you another look at that material. That just looks very, very cool. As I mentioned, I'll put some link in the notes below where you can see the Rockster website as well as their Instagram channel. I'd strongly recommend checking out both. Until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.